Hello, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining me and PDX Mindshare for our virtual workshop today. The benefits employees really want from employers. Our today's workshop is sponsored by Anvil Media, a measurable marketing agency based in Portland, Oregon. I see we have attendees from all over the map, so thank you all for joining us for today's webinar. If you're on the Twitter and would like to follow me, I'm at Kent J. Lewis. PDX Mindshare, you can follow on PDX Mindshare across most social platforms. And then my day job as president and founder of Anvil, you can follow us at Anvil Media. So before we get started, I just want to share a little bit about me and the what we're going to be presenting today. So, so my credentials for hosting this webinar includes the fact that I've been building teams since '97 across 9 agencies. I've founded 2 agencies, co-founded 2 agencies, and decided to do my own thing after getting fired a second time from an agency back in 2002. But Anvil's been around since 2000, employees since 2002. And right around 2000, I also started PDX Mindshare, which you are familiar with today. We have the largest LinkedIn group in Oregon. And I've been an adjunct professor at Portland State as well. So hopefully some of those learnings will come through. If you are interested in other education, I recommend checking out the archived webinars at PDX Mindshare around career-related topics. And then Anvil Media has an insight section with a couple years worth of archived webinars on the digital dark arts of search marketing, social media, and just digital marketing in general. And then I teach a quarterly workshop for SCORE here in Portland, but the webinar is global like this one is quarterly. So my next 2-hour social media workshop for SCORE is in January. Check out the Anvil news and events section for more information there. And you can read my articles on Smart Brief and with Portland Business Journal. I've done similar instruction as well for Online Marketing Institute and other organizations. But bottom line is I have definitely been a part of hiring and training a couple hundred employees over the years and feel like I have some sort of point of view on this topic, knowing I also did a good amount of research because I don't want to look the fool when I'm sharing insights on what employees truly care about. So let's talk about the agenda today. So I'm going to start with some industry research and trends. I'm going to actually talk through 4 key employer evaluation criteria that were initiated by one of my cohorts at Anvil and Mindshare, Meg, and then also talk through the pandemic impact and how that's evolved benefits that employees might actually care about. Have a little bit of time as appropriate for a Q&A, and then we will I will leave you with some additional resources in our appendix, knowing that this presentation will be uploaded to the PDX Mindshare SlideShare and YouTube accounts for future reference. So thank you again for our time today. Let's get started. So traditional HR, we all know what that is, or depending on your own backgrounds, but here are a few stats for you to think about. Nearly 100%, 94% of planned vacations dramatically improve employee energy and outlook upon return to work, according to Harvard Business Review. So ostensibly, vacations are important. 79% of employees who quit their jobs cite a lack of appreciation as a key reason for leaving, according to research by O.C. Tanner. Now, back to the vacations. The reason I mention that is that it's really hard for employers to take vacations when you can't go anywhere during this COVID pandemic. So one thing we've done at Anvil is to ostensibly force or highly encourage people to take time off. And so what we did is we wanted everybody to use at least half of their PTO by Labor Day so that so people weren't taking a month or 2 off the last months of the year, because we have a use it or lose it policy with our PTO for a variety of reasons. Every company is different, but again, encouraging people to take time off throughout this year would not put people back so far with their PTO, put undue pressure on the rest of the team as they take longer vacations, or mainly helps avoid burnout and loneliness and energize employees. In terms of quitting jobs for lack of appreciation, I've written extensively on this topic of how to encourage and appreciate your employees. And I've even written a couple articles on how to manage that process remotely and through the COVID pandemic. Those are available on my LinkedIn profile and in links in the resource section of this presentation. 76% of millennials say they would leave their current position for a new opportunity. Now, I have every reason to believe that this research is pre-COVID. Not to say that number will have dramatically dropped, but a lot of millennials lost their jobs. So those that retain jobs are likely more grateful and less likely to leave during these times of stress. 2/3 of employees are looking to achieve better work-life balance. That's from Investors in People. That's not a surprise, but again, the pandemic has thrown this for a loop. A lot of people are just grateful to have a paycheck right now, those that have kept it. But generally, this pandemic won't last forever. So it's always to keep in mind that work-life balance is critical, especially when you're stuck at home and your work life is blended. 62% of employees want flexible work schedules. I think that has held steady, whether or not they're vocal about it, according to research from Patriot. Similar percentage, actually, I'm sorry, not some, for a similar percentage of 62% employee holiday or PTO time goes unused, according to Glassdoor. That is consistent with what I've seen over the last 20 years at Anvil. Even when we encourage people to take vacation, they often don't get around to it. So proactive management or creative incentives to use PTO helps revitalize per the first bullet point. 60% of employees report an increase in common mental health conditions. And this is a work survey from earlier this year, pre-COVID. So that number has only gone up. Research shows that mental health conditions have deteriorated through COVID. I've seen that with the stress that working from home in certain environments, some of our employees struggled with alternating shifts with their significant others or roommates. There are a lot of other challenges that go with the work at home plan. So all of that can be challenging and should be addressed. Looking at your benefits, as an employer or as an employee, to take advantage of mental health coverage and well-being. 44% of employees cite work-related stress, depression, or anxiety for ill health. 57% of working days are lost due to this fact. So employers need to be aware of work-related stress, resulting depression or anxiety. And it does definitely create ill health, which results in a ton, almost definitely a majority of working days are lost, more related to stress or depression than we consider traditional illnesses. And then 29.7% of employees, almost 30%, say a lack of professional development was a top reason they disengaged, as well as for leaving companies. 21%, next closest, is a lack of career trajectory. So this research is all from Patriot as well. So bottom line is, if you don't give your team a roadmap as an employer, or if you as an employee have not talked to management about creating a roadmap, then you're more likely to be disengaged or to leave. So you and your employer need to be aware of that. And then, over 20% see that don't see a career trajectory. What is my path in this organization? So employers need to clearly articulate that, and employees need to ask if it's not clear. At Anvil, we have something called IDP, an individual development plan, that is your roadmap while you're at Anvil. And then we have 90-day check-in in the first 90 days of employment, monthly check-ins, weekly check-ins, annual reviews that are 360 reviews, including team input. There's no shortage of feedback and direction. We also have professional development budget for every employee. And upon orientation and annual strategic planning, we remind the team of what the career paths look like for anybody in the company. But I have not been at a company that's done any of that consistently in the past, and I've been at technically 11 different organizations over the years, just Anvil for most of it. So a couple other stats for you. 88% of millennials surveyed said their job is more fulfilling when they're provided opportunities to make a positive impact on social and environmental issues. So this is all about that conscious consumer. Gen Y and Gen Z are particularly prone to care about these things. And it's also bled over to consumer purchase behavior, that consumers engage with brands that have some sort of social or environmental sustainability or focus. So if your brand, if your employer doesn't have that, or if you're an employer that doesn't have clearly articulated um, engagement or a statement around social or environmental issues, you may be at a deficit or a disadvantage. 87% of millennials agree development opportunities are important for them in a job. That's Gallup, just reemphasizing previous research. 83% of employees believe an employer's commitment to diversity is a factor, and that is only amplified in 2020 with the protests and the riots and so forth. So employers need to show diversity inclusion training, recruiting processes, and employee development and support to be relevant for the future employee generations of Gen Y, Gen Y, Gen Z. 75% of Gen Z cite money matters as a leading source of stress. So how you can help your employees manage and educate them on financial management. That's something that I think I'm going to do based on this presentation, because I have quite a few Gen Y employees. No Gen Zs yet, a little young, but I've heard that that's more of an opportunity than ever, is educating your employees on financial fiscal matters. So keep that in mind. And if you're an employee, ask for that kind of support from your employer. It's not necessarily required, but I think it's super smart. 58% of millennials say they're planning to change jobs for learning and growth opportunities. Again, pre-COVID, that may still be true deep down, but more than anything, I think people are just trying to hold on to their jobs at all ages at this point. 48% say benefits would make them stay longer at a job, even if another company offered higher pay. 87% would give up a 5% raise in exchange for more benefits. So again, the reminder there, as an employee, you will resonate with this or you won't, but for employers, it's a keen reminder of the importance of not trimming benefits. So we were in a position, our benefits increased 30% year over year for 2020. Instead of cutting benefits, we spent a lot of extra time to go find an alternative plan that had similar benefits, so they wouldn't lose any benefits. In fact, we ended up with a slightly better plan that was more affordable and this is because we pay 100% of employee benefits, is why that's such a big deal for us at Anvil. And so if your employer doesn't have benefits that you like, you can always suggest, ideally, the benefits that matter, because there might be affordable ways to incorporate that into their program and improve retention. Lastly, 36% of small businesses provide food and drink to employees, 23% offer flexible work hours, and only 13% let employees work remotely. Big time pre-COVID at this Kelton Global Research, and there's a link there. But basically, I think what's changed dramatically is perks at the office don't matter so much when most people are not at their office. Flexible work hours is less important when people are working remotely, and almost everybody now has experienced working remotely if they're still working. So at Anvil, I was largely anti-remote work based on the previous team or the team members or employees I'd have over the years. Didn't seem to be able to work from home, and I'm talking the last 10 or 15 years. We would do a week between Christmas and New Year's, and productivity would plummet, disengagement. It was very frustrating as an owner. But since COVID hit, we are fully integrated with remote work. We have full-time back in the office, 2 days a week and 3 days a week back in the office. Nobody's fully remote, but everybody is happy because they can get into the office as much as they want, or only have to show up twice a week. And even those that show up twice a week are happy to be in the office and engage with the team. We've found it's been very advantageous to be back in the office. The rotating schedule just keeps us COVID compliant. So figure out what your company is doing, if it makes sense for you, or if you need to provide other suggestions on how they can improve that process and that schedule to be COVID safe and managing productivity and wellness. 6% of companies so far have reduced or eliminated employer contributions. This is post-COVID, or matches to retirement plans. So, and 16% are considering doing so. And this is like April May timeframe research from Pearl Meyer. So 6% is not a lot, but if you were one of those 6% that had been reduced or eliminated, or your healthcare benefits have been reduced or eliminated, you feel it. But another 16% were inclined to do so. So that's a little over 20% total. I'm thinking that the economy has not plummeted, at least stock market wise, like even I had expected. So hopefully other employers, those employers or your employer have not made those further cuts. I know that at Anvil, not only did we not cut benefits or matching retirement plan contributions, but a meaningful number of employees actually were able to secure raises as we, even if it was out of my paycheck, just to keep them focused. And that's part of the deal running a business is if you can do it, lead from the front, take care of your employees first, and they'll take care of your customers. So employer benefits, let's talk a little bit about myth versus reality. So there are a bunch of different perks you've heard about or experienced or even valued over the years as an employee or even as an employer. Dress code, pet friendly, health insurance, dental, vision, retirement, stock options, PTO, learning and mentorship, flex schedules, telecommuting. I will tell you that Anvil's dress code feels like sometimes pants optional, meaning when people are at home, they're very casual, but have often had to tell our employees to dress better than just a t-shirt for client meetings. We've done the pet friendly office before COVID. At Anvil, we have health insurance, including dental and vision. We have a retirement plan. We are a private company that doesn't really have stock available, but we have offered phantom equity to key employees in the past. We definitely have a PTO model, and we have a lot of professional development. Flex schedules, not so much. Telecommuting, it's post-COVID standard. So, it's interesting to see what companies, the larger the companies, the more likely they are to allow some of these the benefits that are more fiduciary, easy to do when you have more momentum or employees. Dress code is more of a cultural issue. Pet friendly is both culture and practical. Is your office, remotely available to do that? Is that a possibility? As well as flex schedule. So these are the kind of benefits that people are looking for. But let's talk about what what I've experienced and in my research, what I've found, are the table stakes for employee benefits that matter. Obviously, number one with a bullet is a competitive salary. Now, people have shown that they're willing to take significant pay cuts in order to be at a dream job that fulfills their other needs. But competitive salary, definitely the goal to me with salary as an employer and as an employee in the past is to take it off the table. Get the number that you don't have to think about but once a year. If you don't think about it for a year, then you're probably paid well. If you're constantly thinking about it, you may not be paid well, or you may not have alignment with what you're really worth as an employee. I've seen that employee surveys can be very destructive and misleading. Salary surveys, unless they're in that exact market. So national salary ranges, not so helpful. As a business owner, I've gotten into a lot of discussions about what somebody thinks they're worth versus what they're worth. It's also what the employer can pay, financial performance. There are a lot of other factors that go into a competitive salary, but our goal is to pay higher than average to get the best possible talent and not have it be a conversation point or a sticking point, I should say. And then healthcare benefits, obviously, that is table stakes, especially in the white collar world and the world of digital agencies. No healthcare benefits would be no employees, or certainly we would not have the cream of the crop. Retirement savings plan. This is less of an issue for the younger generations as they're just getting into that idea of saving. Gen X are big savers. The greatest generation of boomers were also big savers. But not enough for many boomers that didn't necessarily weren't adults during the Depression. But because I've heard that unfortunately the average amount of money in a savings account or in savings when somebody retires at 65 is $50,000. And that's for some people not enough to get through an entire year. So we have a big gap that employers and Medicare and Social Security need to cover for folks. So retirement savings plan is a big deal, especially for high quality employees that are forward looking. Those are the ones you want. That's an important deal. And look for, a plan that has matching like we do at Anvil, that helps people really grow their retirement. Ongoing training and development. I think that a prof dev budget, professional development budget, is table stakes. At Anvil, it is at least, but some employers don't have a set budget for professional development. It's ad hoc or non-existent, or there's no formal training. At Anvil, we have Anvil University and require other certifications like Google certifications that are unique to our industry. But I was never had any formal training at any of the agencies I was at before Anvil, and we developed our own training because we're in an industry where there's no formal degree still to this day in major universities for search marketing and digital marketing. There are classes, and there might even be quasi degrees, but really it's not widely accepted or spread. And that's part of why I teach at Portland State, is to create those future students and professionals. Consistent feedback. What are the feedback loops? As an employee, I starve for feedback from my employers. Once an annual review is about the only feedback I received, and I learned from my own experience that it's not enough time or frequency to affect change. Complaining about somebody's performance or telling them everything they're doing wrong once a year just depresses them. So at Anvil, I meet monthly one-on-one with every employee. And then I have a weekly check-in since COVID hit with a quick scorecard that the employees fill out. And then we have a quick discussion as needed about stucks or wins. I think consistent feedback is essential and has been, I think, hugely beneficial both to the employee and to the company. Clear sense of company purpose sounds silly, but if your company can't clearly articulate its reason for existence or back it up with mission, vision, and values, then I don't know how you can attract employees outside of a recession. The idea is that particularly the younger the employee generation, the more important a company purpose is. It's a rally cry, it's a focus, it's inspiration and motivation, and helps separate you from competitors. Strong company culture, obviously, culture is what happens when the boss isn't around, among other definitions. And, building a good corporate culture doesn't happen by default, it happens by design. I learned that many years ago. So it takes some intention, and it takes a lot of effort to make it look effortless, to make sure that the employees are indoctrinated, trained, and guided on what is proper behaviors and mores. And so as an employee, I have been at so many different places with such different cultures, although agency cultures are largely similar. Nobody ever said like these are our values and vision, and this is how we make decisions, and that really feeds the culture. And then the transparent access, transparent, accessible, and engaged leadership. So transparent is, are the owners, the bosses, telling you what you need to know? Are they transparent about it? Or are they covering something up, like impending massive layoffs because of mismanagement or things out of their control? Accessibility, can you get to them easily? Walk in, is it open door policy? And are they engaged? Do they understand what's going on with the business? Are they day-to-day understanding and contributing to the long-term vision and goals? And I've found that over the years, I've always been transparent usually to a flaw where it concerns people, worries them, or distracts them. That hadn't been my problem, and I've always had open door policy. And for the last 10 years at our Anvil building, my office has been sliding glass doors that are always open unless I'm on a call or in a meeting. But the engaged leadership is a trick. And for many years, I've had senior people that have run the team for me and felt, well, they're doing it, so I don't have to. And for the last year, I've been doubling down on engaging directly with the team. And it's been a huge payoff in terms of reducing employee turnover, increasing morale. And I can't imagine doing it any other way. But is your leadership engaged with you? Are they checking in with you? Are they concerned? Are they helping you? I send articles to my team regularly and share professional development opportunities with them, and talk with them at least once, if not 5 times a week. And again, we're a small boutique agency, so that's maybe a little different than where you work or the kind of organization you run. But the bottom line is these are table stakes. Meaningful work is obviously important. So either you love what you do what you love. And if you're doing that, it's not work. Work doesn't shouldn't feel like work when you're truly harnessing your passion, your key strengths, and your unique abilities. And so we try to create meaningful work everywhere I've been. I've tried that, but now more than ever at Anvil, that seems to be true. And we're very fortunate to be there. Hope you are as well. Rewards and recognition, no brainer. So acknowledge people, especially those that like to be acknowledged. There are some that employees I've worked with in the past that prefer not to be acknowledged. And if you acknowledge them publicly, they get upset. Not like I quit, but it doesn't have a positive outcome like you would think. For most people, you would think would want to be recognized publicly, but understand each employee is what I've found has been beneficial. And if it is important to you as an employee, please tell your managers or the ownership or executive team that it's important that you be recognized for your work. Because I've had people leave Anvil and say, "You never recognized the work I did," and I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" "Well, these client kudos." Like, what client kudos? If you don't share them with me, how am I supposed to know? And they didn't really have anything. Well, I didn't want to seem like I was cocky or needed affirmation. Well, you just brought it up that we didn't give it to you, so it clearly is important. So, as an employee, I would recommend own your need for recognition and rewards. Make it verbal and vocal. I don't want to have to guess with my employees what matters to them. Although I end up doing that most of the time. Is if you as an employee can tell the employer what matters to you, you'll get more of it, right? Private recognition, a gift certificate versus this or that, whatever it is, it's still table stakes. But I found is for the managers to understand what motivates an employee is really key when you're mapping out what rewards and recognition should look like. So we give kudos in our weekly staff meeting. We give out gift cards as appropriate. We give out cash bonuses as merited, but that all those expectations are set up front, so it's not a surprise. And I recommend that your employer or you as an employer do the same thing. So let's talk a little bit about post-COVID benefits, because things have evolved, things have changed since March of 2020. So what's hot right now? Flexible work schedule, hotter than ever. What's not? And some of these are fillers, but Friday happy hour, Friday for happy hour. So what is hot for Anvil specifically is our virtual happy hour. We play games like Scribble.io, equivalent of Cards Against Humanity, and we are more engaged virtually on our happy hours Friday at 4 than we ever were in person. That's over a 20-year period, and including other agencies I've worked at. The team, it's 100% on average. Let's call it 90% because some people have conflicts or have extra work deadlines. But let's call it 90% average participation every Friday. We do something for 30 to 45 minutes, sometimes as long as an hour. Fun, virtual, get to know each other. It's some of the best team building and bonding we do in Anvil's history. Also because we weren't able to do quarterly field trips up until recently. We did a Topgolf field trip. But bottom line is that the standard happy hour at the office is dead, because the office is dead for now, or I should say on hiatus until further notice. What else is hot? Food delivery. So instead of buying your office meals or snacks at the office, when we first went virtual in March or April, I sent out a Grubhub gift certificate to everybody just as they were getting settled in home to make things a little easier for a lunch. But we also, now that we've been back in the office, we've actually refortified with snacks and beverages, just because in many ways we'd cut costs severely to get through this tough time. And as we've been recovering, it was time to get back to some semblance of normalcy. And the benefit of that is if your employers are doing that, anything to help people feel a little bit of nostalgia for the normal days, the old days, is not a bad thing. The virtual workouts, streaming subscription. So what that means is instead of you're bringing the yoga instructor or gym memberships where they can't really be used in office for most employers, is hosting virtual workouts or paying for streaming subscriptions for fitness. Not everybody can afford a Peloton, but you could be even just streaming TV, like a Disney Plus or a Netflix membership, knowing that people are going to Netflix and chill and they're not at work. And if it's sponsored by the employer, that's always a good look. Remote office support is obviously really important, making sure people have the desks, the chairs, the internet connectivity, the computers, the keyboards, etc. What's not as cool or matters for the time being for the next year or so or more is, do they have a pool table, ping pong tables, video games at the office. None of that really matters right now, because everybody has, they have their own perks at home. But what you need to do is make sure that they've made a good office work environment, because I'm sure most people's homes or apartments are a little more fun than their office desk or area. Expanded healthcare is more important than ever, with a pre-existing condition called COVID and other related complications. I've found that I have not seen brands successfully pull off unlimited PTO over time, but I think that's less important right now, as people are just trying to get to work, get a job, stay at work, stay healthy. PTO doesn't seem to be, it's the opposite problem, because people aren't taking enough PTO as it stands. Um, Customizing your Zoom background, having a cool background is important. Relaxed dress code is nearly irrelevant now, because people are already barely getting their pants on or taking a shower. So relaxed dress code seems to be du jour. And then on the childcare side, man, being able to allow employees that have children get some sort of support while their children are learning from home and they're trying to work from home. The pet-friendly office is not really relevant right now, because they have a pet-friendly home, right? And then employment is hot right now. Unemployment is definitely not. So let's look at four key factors in understanding benefits that matter. So these come from a blog post originally written by Meg Riley on our Anvil team. And this is her article, Benefits Employees Really Want. So the first thing she mentioned was achievement, which is consistent with my top 10, some sort of clear career path and advancement opportunities. So some people are more interested in titles, some are more interested in pay increases, some are more interested in the in between, which is like, what responsibilities do I have, or what kind of team can I build? But seeing some sort of path is important. The other is a sense of security. What is the company's history with layoffs, or how they treat employees during a down economy says everything. So a steady paycheck is something people are looking at now more than ever. So whatever you can do as an employer to communicate that, or as an employee, ask the questions to get a sense of cash reserves, marketing strategy, customer service strategy. How are they going to weather the economic uncertainty, basically. Culture, this is important. People will, culture eats strategy for breakfast. So if it's a toxic culture, it doesn't matter how much you pay. I've had multiple agency owners in my network. One that I knew had a toxic culture from insider information say, "Oh, I just pay my people way more money and they stick around." And I think she found that wasn't true, that they left anyway. No amount of money can keep you somewhere where you cannot really, in a toxic work environment or a really poor culture, not non-existent, but not positive culture. And I've been at hostile cultures and I have been glad to leave them. And then just the freedom, some flexibility, some autonomy, some ability to achieve and grow with enough guardrails and framework to succeed, with some focus, but not, not having a glass ceiling or glass walls is really important. So autonomy is important. So these are all really four key factors that employees are looking at, that employers should be aware of. Now let's break down flexibility for a second. So that includes, the ability to attract and retain talent has a lot to do right now with the remote work option. So what that means is you can get great talent at a lower cost from markets that are not as expensive cost of living as yours. So for Portland, it's really small cities. We're a top 20 DMA, but there are many cities smaller. But if I'm a Seattle, San Francisco, New York, Boston, I'm looking at markets like Portland where cost of living is significantly less, and looking to recruit there. If we don't have to move them. There's no signing bonus. There's no cost of living issues. They get paid what they are. The question is, are certain employers that are not requesting their employees to come back, certain Silicon Valley social media, woke companies, well, then are you adjusting salary for those people that moved away from the expensive city? Or are you just paying all the upside without getting the benefit of having them been in the office? And that's assuming you have an office. If you don't, you're saving money on your lease. So be it. That may be a benefit. Other flexibility is control over the schedule. So one thing I've learned over the last 9 months is that I've listened more to my biorhythms now. Not that I'm not as tied to a 9 to 5 time schedule, even as an owner and executive the last 20 years and making my own schedule. I started to listen. I do all my critical thinking between 5 and 8 a.m. I do my planning and small tasks up until and through lunch. And then if I need to create something, write an article, blog post, present, or build a webinar, I do it after lunch. Typically between 3 and 6 is my most productive time when I'm doing content. So listen to that biorhythm, and then and talk to your managers, or as an employer, understand everybody's biorhythm. Some people aren't morning people, some people are. Let them work where they do the best work. But in the agency world, we're beholden to our clients' schedule. So 9 to 5 is still pretty standard, and it's hard to break out of that. But at least where they work from can give them a little more empowerment, giving them that choice. Work-life balance is always going to improve morale. How does that look? I think there are a lot of ways to look at it. I encourage people to go home if they're working long hours consistently, or we have to figure out, is it an efficiency, productivity, focus issue, or is it a truly too much work and we need to reallocate the work or potentially hire somebody else? Greater productivity. So there are a lot of ways to do that. Again, following the biorhythms, and then lowering costs. So, if you can allow people to work in flexible environments and on flexible schedules, you can lower your operational expenses. And don't forget the professional educational development opportunities. One thing I've noticed is the prof dev budgets have gone farther, 10x farther this year than ever before, because all the physical travel, so airfare, lodging, taxi, transportation, meals has gone to zero. And then also the educational events don't charge as much for their education for whatever reasons, aggressive, trying to stay competitive. Bottom line is, what used to cost $2,000 might cost $200 now for a 2-hour workshop or a 1-day conference from home or from the office on headphones. It's very different than traveling to another city. All of this does reduce COVID health risk as people stay home or stay in their pods or have limited exposure at work. So those are all factors to consider. The other thing is to consider is the changing needs and wants of the pandemic. I've already mentioned what's hot, what's not, but here's some research that points to it specifically. So has your organization taken or is planning to take following actions? The most active activity employers are taking are hiring freezes, salary freezes, furloughs, and reduction hours. So when COVID first hit, we were already in a tough financial spot at Anvil from Q1. We did not furlough, we did not lay off. We did freeze hiring and temporarily salaries, but executive team took a reduction in salary to help allow to not have to do the first few things. And that, I think, helped a lot and allowed us to then actually give merit and pay increases as appropriate and then rebuild from there. So you can see most companies are looking at just freezing things rather than reducing things, which is great. The changing need and wants. So comprehensive healthcare plans, I already mentioned this. So thinking way out of the box, like potentially repaying student loans can be a big benefit. Another changing need is more need for interest in entertainment. So streaming services, convenience, so delivery of food and other services is of high desirability. Also reimbursement, which I just mentioned on student loans, is another one. Continuing this idea of post-pandemic needs and wants would be the trustworthy leaders, as I mentioned, being transparent, connected, engaged, caring. That's what people are looking for as employees. It helps kind of create and build trust and reduce anxiety about job security when there's a level of trust with leadership. Management, trust in employees is important too. Empowering the employees to take on more responsibility isn't a bad thing during these uncertain times. And you'll find that they step up. I know the Anvil team has stepped up hugely this year in a lot of different ways, given the opportunity to help make Anvil better and keep our clients happy and their coworkers safe. Human connection, community, that we are a tribe. We're a global tribe. We're all in this together. It's challenging now with the bipartisanship and insanity that's happening. And if you haven't seen The Social Dilemma, I recommend watching it on Netflix. Is that social media is wiring us all to really sort of tearing democracy apart. just for a few ad dollars to summarize that documentary. But it's harder now to have a judgment-free environment in some employers, in some states, in some cities. But I think what's timeless is to make sure that you don't penalize people that have kids, that have pets, that their home office space isn't as comfortable as yours per se. These are all challenges to keep in mind. You don't want to necessarily reward people for either for having kids, pets, or a really nice house, but just be cognizant of how things look and feel. And lastly, multifaceted wellness. So there's the physical, mental, and financial health. So with physical, we don't have a gym membership, but there are some benefits to our healthcare provider that provides some discounts. The mental wellness, understanding your plan, reminding employees what is available, or as an employee asking what is available for mental health or physical health. And then financial health. Does it make sense, or would you be offended if there was somebody talking about financial health? I think it's worth having that discussion with the management or your employees. So a few thoughts here on maintaining employee engagement. So I mentioned this in passing, but one thing we've done to keep our engagement up at Anvil is bi-weekly check-ins. So there's two things happening there. Monday morning, the team will send in an Excel scorecard, self-evaluation of how they've been performing across our core values and key responsibilities and activities, and wins and stucks. And so those are shared with management, and I always respond with questions or comments. And then we also have our Monday staff meeting. Then on Wednesday, we have our big picture strategy meeting talking about industry trends. So as a group, we're coming together to talk big picture. And then on Friday, we have our Friday at 4 virtually, as I mentioned. But also mid to Wednesday evening to Thursday morning, I do a weekly check-in with the team. How's the week gone? How can I help? How are things going? And once a month, as that happened to be yesterday, I checked in with the entire team on 15 to 30-minute intervals on how they're doing and how I can help. And that's been, I think, very helpful, that there's at least that 2 biweekly touch point between management and employee, and also the 3 times a week check-in, physical or virtual, the team amongst itself. I've written an article on this topic, but again, check-ins, ask your managers for a check-in, because you're both going to benefit from it. We always provide kudos in our staff meetings, typically above and beyond, just not glad handing. In the past, there was a lot of bootstrapping where people would congratulate each other just to get kudos, because we used to kind of track that and reward it. And now it's much more organic and authentic and far more productive. Office perks and surprises. I just decorated with a couple Dollar Tree Halloween decorations at the office yesterday. But a little surprise there, but stashed up on some snacks and beverages at the office as well. But you can do that virtually, right? Surprise people with that DoorDash, Uber Eats gift card, or creating some sort of group activity, virtual or physical. These are all opportunities. And then, obviously spot performance bonuses. I've been giving those out because the team has been doing great. Gift cards, whatnot. Ideally, what resonates with their personal interests. One thing we've done is we have every employee fill out a form of like their wants, needs, and likes, so that when I am out looking for candy or snacks to buy, I know what people like, or music to select, or favorite retailers, favorite restaurants. These are all profiles that can be built for employees, and that employees should encourage their managers to track. So it means more to get a certain gift card than from a place you actually love than one you've never heard of or don't like. And then obviously revisiting compensation as appropriate, I think, is helpful. So I've got a couple advanced employer recommendations for you. Some of these are, we have not tried them, but scheduling virtual water cooler breaks throughout the day, or a set time, or a day of the week where people can sort of get together. I think there's an app called ShareSpace, I think that's what it's called, where you can go and people are in a visual space, physical virtual space, where the closer you get to somebody, that you can hear their music or what they're working on. There are those type of apps, but mainly just get on Zoom, or in our case, Uber Conference or WebEx, and just kind of shoot the whatever, insert word here, chat, get to know each other. That's really where our Friday at 4 comes into play. Promoting health incentives, that I think is always a good idea. Make sure that people stay healthy. We did a planking competition, gave a reward for the person who could plank the longest. The winner was 10 minutes. We practiced for 2 months. That was impressive. That was a while ago. Encourage or force employees to use PTO holiday. I've already covered that. So not create undue duress on any given team member. And then rewards, you can reward if cash is short, reward with PTO or cash bonuses, or other things that people value. I have on occasion given more time out instead of cash bonuses because it meant more to that person if they had a big trip planned. And then also food delivery, streaming services. So the popular streaming services are a reminder below by cost. It's a good reminder that you could do that as a perk. We've used DoorDash and Uber Eats for gift cards in the past, and I think those are well received. If you've got the funds and you've got a lot of older employees that have family, to look at expanding child or mental health care coverage would be prudent. And then other long-term remote working options. If the team loves working remotely and they're still effective and efficient, make that case as an employee. As an employer, I would say we have shifted our view, or I have shifted my view of the value of remote work. I still believe our best work is in the office, but understand and support the idea of having a long-term remote working policy or flexible work schedule in that regard. Expanding employee recruitment. So now that people are virtual and embracing it, and some are really doing great with it, is to look at hiring your next recruits or recruiting out of market, and they just stay remote. I mean, that's everybody's set up an office by now remotely, so you can get really good talent for less, and certainly opens up a broader recruitment when you can look around the country instead of in your own backyard. So that kind of wraps up the core content. We have some great resources here for you. These are all clickable. They will be in the SlideShare version. They'll be clickable. You can always ask for a copy if you're impatient or you don't like the YouTube recording version. But I recommend that you sign up for the monthly Mindshare job and email events at pdxmindshare.com. If you're not already on it, join our LinkedIn group. If you're not already on it, you can follow or like or connect with me on LinkedIn, and visit the Anvil's Insights and Events section for more educational opportunities in our events. In our Insights section, we have archived webinars on the marketing side of things, so visit our website. You can always email me questions. So let's open it up. Does anybody have any questions that they want to share? You can use the little chat box on the, there's a chat box here somewhere, or just unmute and just shout out any questions you might have, and I'm happy to answer them. I have one quick question here. Go ahead, Victoria. I know you're typing that, and again, while we're doing that, we had a quick question of, again, where can I get this? So you'll be able to get a copy of this presentation on SlideShare, which should be linked from the Mindshare website, and also on our YouTube account. There'll be a recording of this session. Question from Victoria: have you experimented with any innovative technologies to aid employee engagement? Great question, Victoria. I would say the most elaborate test we've done is that virtual Friday at 4, where we're using various tools or fun games, just using Zoom, Uber Conference, you name it, to get everybody on the same place. But a lot of people are zoomed out, as it were, Zoom fatigue. So we also use Slack, and a lot of the team appreciate being able to post GIFs and images and videos to in the fun section when they're not all doing work through Slack or Basecamp. So Slack, I think, can be a powerful thing. I personally do not like Slack, but I use it as much as I need to, or as little as I need to, or can get away with. The other thing is, we've in the past tried a regular weekly survey tool where it just sends one question, sometimes automated, sometimes customized, to the employees each week to answer a question. We found it was highly unproductive. We had a fairly toxic, negative culture. This was 10 years ago. So we moved away from that, but it may be something worth second look, because engaging your employees with surveys and questions can be very valuable. There are probably a ton of other tools out there. apps and so forth, but I'm relying still mostly on web conferencing and Excel spreadsheets and Slack, sort of fundamental communication platforms. I hope that helped, Victoria. Does anybody else have a question? Okay. What was the biggest challenge that you found with employee engagement before or after COVID? So go back to the Friday at 4. With Friday at 4, it's been integral to me, my fabric as an agency guy, stemming back from Friday at 4 was a time to drink in college, and then and going to the agency world, and my first internship up in Seattle at a big full service agency. At Friday at 4, people started to drink. They had beer on tap, or they'd go get some out of the fridge. And then at the PR firm, my first job in Portland in '95, same thing. They'd all sit down with a glass of wine or a beer. But what I noticed is certain people would never join Friday at 4. They were too good for it, or they were too busy consistently. Others just wanted to get home. The smart ones would have a beer, chat for 15, 20 minutes and leave. Those are the smart ones. I think the dumb ones would figure out any way to get out of Friday at 4, which I have always found to be the best time to get to know people. So our high attendance of our virtual has been a huge boon to employee engagement. And then adding those other touch points. So every other day there's a touch point of some sort, adding, a Friday at 4 that we didn't have, because people used to bail off Friday at 4 at Anvil, thought it was a time to leave early, or thought it was a time to get extra work done, but we weren't all hanging out together and talking, and now we are. So I think that virtual Friday at 4 has been the single greatest asset for employee engagement in my mind. The other was we did that field trip to Topgolf recently, a couple weeks ago, and people can't stop talking about it because we've been starving. Normally do at least a quarterly field trip and activity, and it had been 9 months. And so everybody was excited to do that, and we're already planning the next one for November, December. So I would recommend, if you can safely get out, Topgolf is open air vented. People can wear masks and be safe. And so looking for those types of activities, I think, is a really smart thing to do. I have time for maybe one more question, and I hope that helped. And I would love to hear from others what they have done to address the employee engagement challenge. If they have them, feel free to chat it out or unmute and shout it out. We definitely want to share as many insights as we can. And also remember that LinkedIn group, the Mindshare LinkedIn group, is a great place to ask these questions, answer these questions, and get in a dialogue as well. So being respectful of time here, I want to give some people a few minutes back today. So we're going to wrap up, and I want to say thank you for your time and your support. And we will, be rolling out the future Mindshare workshops. We have one coming up next month, and we hope you'll join us. Check out our website, our newsletter on Anvil or Mindshare for the reminders, or follow us on social. And we will look forward to seeing you then. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll talk to you soon. Be well.